there. This is Lisa Brouwer with Full Throttle Living, and I am so excited to introduce my guest today. His name is James Marshall, and he was one of the guys of the dynamic duo, the other half of the dynamic duo of the American Dream Project. And I just want to thank you for hanging out with me for a little bit today, and I'm excited to hear about your story.
Well, I'm very delighted, very flattered to be asked, and it's lovely to meet you. And hello, everybody.
Well, I have to apologize. I didn't catch up with the American Dream Project until you were out of Sioux Falls, where I live. So
Yeah,
I found you through your Kickstarter campaign, and so I was able to kind of see what you were doing and picked you up after you've been through Spirit Lake at the Polaris dealership or Polaris production plant, and then you came through Sioux Falls, and I followed you after you were through here. So
and it was a beautiful place, very windy,
yes, yes.
and quite cold. I wasn't quite prepared for how cold it would be, but it was very welcoming people. And actually, the guys at Indian Motorcycles and Polaris were very generous. They actually gave us a chance to see the facility and where the machines were born, if you like, where the bikes were born.
Mm-hmm.
We actually got to meet the team at Polaris Industries and actually be involved in making one of the bikes. That was
Wow,
a lot of fun.
that would be fun.
Yeah.
Well, and I only live about an hour from there, so I probably should just take a day and go see what's going on, right?
You know what? They're a really lovely group of people. And it was nice to, oh, can you see me?
I lost you.
Okay.
Oh, you're coming back.
Um,
There you are.
so it was nice to not only see where the motorcycles were made, but actually see something that was made in America. And that was actually one of the reasons why we chose Indian Motorcycles, was because they were the first motorcycle company in the States, and because Polaris are resurrecting the brand, and we thought it was such a historic brand, and the Scout in particular, was a bike that's such an iconic bike.
Yes.
That was our natural choice.
And so you rode the Scout, right? All the way across the country?
Yes, I did.
And
And it was actually an interesting choice because I'd ridden the Vintage before for just a minute, and of course it's a lot bigger bike. I think the Vintage weighs about 900 pounds and the Scout's about 540 pounds. So for a new rider, the Scout was actually easier for me to use. Has a lot of power, but obviously doesn't have a windscreen. Um, and and there's no cruise control, so there's no heating up your hands on the engine. It was a real experience, riding that across the states.
I would imagine I haven't ridden the Scout yet, but I have ridden the Vintage. I've ridden the Chieftain. That would be my Indian of choice, would be the Chieftain. But
A big
being
bike.
being a rider, I mean, I know what it's like when you get hit with the wind and you get hit with rain and snow and hail. I mean, I've been in all of that, and to be riding a Scout and just rolling on the throttle across America, it's got to be an amazing journey.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what was great about it was, starting off in New York with it was very hot and very humid, but riding in such a historic place like New York with the yellow taxis and the big skyscrapers it was great to ride the Scout because it's very, you could maneuver through the enormous potholes around them. It was very responsive and very maneuverable. But then as we went across some more of the open plains, it was so responsive. It was very, very powerful bike. It's 6 speed, so you could, if I got into a bit of trouble, I could just drop it down a gear, hit the throttle, and off you go. But of course, with the biblical rain, when you see when the show comes out in probably spring, you'll see that the rain was of biblical proportions. The wind very intense, and obviously the temperature dropped down to kind of mid 30s. So it was I ate a lot, as they say. Yeah, it
Because
was a great experience.
now this trip happened in September, right?
20 September this year,
Okay.
2014.
Okay. Now it's called the American Dream Project.
Yeah.
And I followed you through social media. I can't wait to see what the finished project looks like. But tell everybody who doesn't know what it's about. Give us a little bit more idea.
So the American Dream Project really started for me. I didn't realize it started actually when I was a kid. I grew up in London, and I grew up on John Wayne movies and American television, and I kind of fell in love with America from a very young age, and always dreamt about moving to the States. Fast forward a bunch of years, and in 2007 I actually moved here. Fell in even deeper in love with America, but also met my wife here. She's a New Yorker. And as I started living here more and more and meeting more and more Americans and getting to know more Americans and traveling across the States a little bit myself, I started to realize that the news media and some of the reality TV programs, they tend to highlight the worst of America. Mm-hmm. Kind of got a bit upset with it, if I'm completely honest. I kind of got very frustrated that people were kind of always showing the bad side within America and externally. And as someone as a foreigner here, I've become, I've fallen in love with it, as I said, and very passionate about it. But I was sick and tired of people just showing the bad of it, the bad side. So I really wanted to make something that could, rather than show us why we're so different, show us what we have in common, to show us all the great stuff that's happening in the United States. And I'm not talking about the heads of industry, billionaires, these wealthy people, but great everyday Americans. Mm-hmm. We have so much. I'm not American, but I say we because I'm married to an American. I've been here for 7 years. But I think Americans have a tremendous amount to be proud of. And as someone, I've traveled around the world, to Africa and all across Europe and to Asia. America is such a phenomenal country. And I think sometimes we forget, because of the news media and because of reality TV, we forget all the great stuff. And it's only in times when bad things happen that we're reminded of how great we are. And I think that's a shame. I think it's great that we remember how good we are and what a great country this is. But why do we have to wait until some very bad thing happens?
Right.
So that kind of made me think, what could I do? What could I do to kind of show a mirror back to America and to Americans and show them how great the place is? So that was kind of the start of it. It was very exciting, very nervous. I did it all on my own to start off with, which was terrifying. It's a big task, making a TV show is not an easy thing. It's not about just getting a crew together. But that's where it came from.
So what I understand is the entire project, you started filming in New York. You hopped on your motorcycles, and the goal was to get to California.
Yeah.
And I think what I read is you were given like $250 that would allow you food and lodging through your entire stay. So the whole premise was to get deep into the heart of the people along the way. And you put shout outs, right? So tell us more about that.
So I thought, I could go from hotel to hotel. We could probably get, with a program called the American Dream Project, we could probably get hotel sponsors to give us hotel rooms. And we could probably get, big brands to throw money at us, to influence a creative. But what I really wanted to do was to try and meet real people on a really genuine basis. So social media is social media, pretty much touches everyone these days. So we thought, okay, well, the goal is to go from New York City all the way over to California. How can we meet real everyday Americans? Well, why don't we start off in New York City? We've got a rough route. We knew the states we were going through, so we'll send out a blast on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram to the state of Ohio, and we'll hashtag the mayor and a bunch of other people to try and get some attention, and let's see what happens. All of a sudden, we start to get people say, hey, the American Dream Project, why don't you come and stay with us? We can put you up on, we've got a town of 35 people in Renville, Ohio. We can put you up and we'll feed you, we'll put your roof over your head. And our deal was, you put us up and we'll work for our keep, because we're not looking for freebies. So in Renville, Ohio, for example, there's a lady called Coraline and a guy called Brian, weren't relatives, but a town of 35 people. They both reached out to us and said, well, look, why don't you come and we'll show you a real, very small town, and we'll put you up, we'll feed you, keep you warm, and you can help us repair the graveyard. So we went to Renville, met these people, and we fixed up this graveyard that had veterans from the Civil War, the First World War and the Second World War. So we kind of paid our way, and we got to hear their story and understand more about them as Americans.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
So people just welcomed you, opened their homes. You got to do, I guess, seeing the grassroots from one end of the country to the other. Tell me about some of your most favorite stops.
Wow. I mean, they were so different. They were really, really different. I think I've got two that spring to mind instantly. One is St. Louis in Missouri, of course. We went to St. Louis and there was a lot of trouble going on, and there still is troubles with, there is racism there. And there was also all sorts of problem with a policeman killing a kid. And that was, obviously a very bad thing that happened. But what was fascinating was we received a video from these three girls from St. Louis. They'd seen our Kickstarter video, and they made a video for us and said, look, there's a lot of bad stuff going on here, which is very, very bad, but there's also some really great stuff going on here as well. We don't want St. Louis and Missouri just to be known for the bad. We'd like it to be known for the good. So we thought, okay, so let's go and visit these girls. So the three girls that run this company called Wondery. They're a startup company that help startups. And the reason why I was attracted to go to St. Louis and these particular girls was, there were three girls. And by the way, I come from a family of all women. My father passed away when I was a little boy. So I was raised by all women. So it was three women that were very strong women that had set up a business that was to encourage other women to drive themselves forward in business. And so when you think of Missouri and St. Louis, you don't necessarily think of, super smart women driving industry there. So I went and stayed with those ladies, and they talked about how they were helping startup companies develop themselves on social media. And the upshot of that episode was that we had a whole episode that put St. Louis on its head. There's a certain perception about it, but actually what's driving business in St. Louis in one particular way was these very smart group of women helping other women and develop that region. So that for me, very exciting. So that really stood out for me, was that when people think of America, they think of the smart people being on the edges in the cities, but that's absolutely not the case. That really is not the case. And they proved it. So that was very exciting. And then the other favorite place was a place we went to called Medicine Bow Lodge in Wyoming. And we stayed with a couple called Tim and Debbie. They run this dude ranch. Great couple. They've really been through it. They've been through some really tough times, but faith had really kept them together. And they'd followed their dream, and their dream was to get out of the office, get out of the printing business they were in, which they didn't want to be in, and to help heal people through their faith and through animals. So we went to this really great ranch called Medicine Bow Lodge. And honestly, I saw not only myself change there, but I saw my crew change. So these are people that lived in the city, that grew up in the city, that couldn't get online, and they were forced to speak to each other, to communicate, to talk, and to take life at a slower pace. And that was really breathtaking. And also riding a motorcycle through Wyoming. My goodness. I mean, it was truly fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that you've had a lot of thinking time on your motorcycle. That's
Yeah.
when I solve the world's problems is when I'm riding. And tell me, what did you think about? What was different about you after this trip than before? That's a really big, deep question.
It's a question, but there's a few things that spring to mind, and one of them was that I actually had, because I'd only been riding a motorcycle for 2 weeks prior to this trip. So I took my motorcycle lesson a couple of weeks before, and so I was a little bit nervous. It's a big deal riding across a country so big. And I had a couple of, as a new rider, I did a couple of mistakes and almost had a couple of accidents, which were my fault. But it made me think about, what the heck am I doing on this planet? What am I doing with my time? And it actually, believe it or not, made me want to have kids for the first time in my life. So, my wife and I have been together for 7 years. We've been married for 2 years. And being on the road and having time to think made me put my life into perspective. It made me think about what is not important. And, money really doesn't buy you happiness. It's family. It's connecting with people. It's taking life at a slower pace. And actually, there was a moment on one particular day. I think I was riding through the Badlands, which is beautiful, and we were had to get 450 miles done that day. And I suddenly realised, I was like, wow, I'm going so fast, and I really wasn't enjoying the journey. And I just pulled over. I just stopped. And of course, the producer was like, "What are you stopping for? What are you stopping for?" I said, "You know what? I'm stopping because look where we are. That we're this blue sky, these fluffy clouds, in the most beautiful country I've been, beautiful part of such a beautiful country. Why would I want to just ride through this so quickly?" So I said to her, you need to let's button it up, turn the cameras off, and let's just enjoy where we are. And it was breathtaking. So that reminded me, it was a very pivotal moment because it reminded me that it's, sometimes you just got to stop and smell the flowers, and enjoy this journey because we're here for such a short period of time. So that's a couple of things there. And also, I realized that I need to aim higher in life and my dreams. I need to think bigger and go for it, and not let my fears stop me from achieving what I want to achieve.
Yeah.
There's too many people that say, no, you can't do it for this reason, or no, you can't do it for that reason. There's always going to be people saying no. So you know what? Every time I hear a no, I'm that one step closer to hearing a yes. So yeah.
And those are great life lessons to pass along to other people and to your children and the people that you get to meet as a result of this project. And I think it's a very worthy life purpose to really think about being intentional about how we're living. And I just love that because that rings true for me too. So tell me about how the relationship with Todd went during this whole time. I mean, there were two guys out on motorcycles, having a great time crossing the country. What happened there?
Most of the time it was great. When you spend a month on the road with someone, you're bound to have moments where you clash. And, Todd's from Minnesota. He's a really great guy. He's been riding a motorcycle for 30 something years. And I think we're both raised very differently in different countries, but we're very similar in a lot of ways. So, I even though he's only a couple of years older than me, I really did look up to him as a motorcycle rider, because quite frankly, I was terrified most days. So, he guided me and helped me Um, uh, he guided me to ride safely and to enjoy the journey more from a riding perspective. Um, but I think that as a new rider, I could see that I was so excited about small things, and I felt sometimes that he was a little bit frustrated by the
Mm-hmm.
so there was a couple of times off camera I'd have to say to him, sometimes on camera, do you really want to be here? Are you really enjoying this journey? There's no point being here if you don't want to be here. Because it started to interrupt my own journey. Being with someone that was for just a minute was kind of had this negative energy. It was detracting from me so much that I had to kind of speak to him about it. But once we had a bit of a chat, we pushed that to one side, we moved on, and everything was great again. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, riding across the country with a friend, you learn so much about each other. And he's a really great guy, and I definitely do it again with him. I definitely ride across the country again. He's a really good man, really good guy.
That's cool. The bond I'm sure that you guys came away with would just be amazing. And I'm sure you'll be lifelong friends, and just the stories that you could share after that. Oh, so if there are other people looking to start a journey like you did, whether it be going across the United States on a motorcycle, doing this deep excavation of your heart, if you will. Let's start with the motorcycle piece of it.
Yeah.
Someone's ready to go across the country. What are some things that they need to know about?
Well, firstly, the first thing I would say is that you need to know that there are more people out there that will help you than that will harm you. So there was an American friend of mine that I won't say his name, but he was my first choice to come on the road with me. And he's an American guy, super nice guy, but he was more afraid than he was anything else of going to certain towns because of what he'd heard. And there are always bad people in every town you go to, but if you're traveling across the states, people will help you out. There's a lot of good Samaritans out there, and they're more than you think, and they don't want money. They just want to help, and they want to be a part of a journey. So that's something I would say, if you're thinking should you or shouldn't you do it, and know that you won't get everything perfect from day one, but that's okay. If you get lost, that's okay, because you find, getting lost, you find somewhere else. So that was really great. But I think, my first choice was to actually ride a 1948 Indian Scout. That was my dream. But then as I researched it more, I realized that the bike, it wouldn't have made the journey without breaking down a lot. So I chose to go use a bike that I knew was reliable. So I think that was very important. I did my safety checks every single day. Everything. I was absolutely careful about that. And then picking a route that really inspires you. We tried to stay off the interstate as much as possible. The one thing I would do differently, I think we tried to put too many miles in each day. And that became taxing, because then you were tired, and then with fatigue, the chance of having an accident goes up, of course. So I think, doing less miles is more fun, because you can enjoy it. Building lots of stops, and give yourself, more time than you think you need, way more time. The time crunch became a bit of a challenge for us at some point. It would have been nice, if we get a second series picked up and we do it again, through a different route, I'll definitely allocate more time. Yeah.
Cool. So as we wrap up here, what's next for the American Dream Project? What's next for you?
Well, now we're in the editing stage. So by the end of this very week, we'll have our sizzle reel made. We have interest from a lot of different people that want to put it on their channels. What we're probably going to do is end up putting it on a web channel. For the main reason that we want more people to be able to have access to it. So it's not about money for us. Obviously I've got to not make a loss. So right now we're in the post-production. We're getting the sizzle reel done. and we should have a network or a web channel sorted out within the next couple of months. And then it's kind of getting into editing and trying to get this out by kind of spring, summer of next year. So that's for the show. And then, we're developing, because my production company is called Happy Marshall Productions. And we want to develop a couple of other shows, one about texting and driving. So that's one of the other things we're doing. But yeah, I want to continue to make programming that's positive and that's inspiring, and it's fun to make. And if it's fun to make, I think it's fun to watch.
Right. Well, how can we keep up with you on this? I'm assuming that when production is done and everything's a go, that we can see it, whether on TV or web channel or wherever. That's going to go to your Facebook page, or tell us how everyone can stay in contact with your story.
Okay, so right now we're probably going to be in a quiet space for the next few weeks. But on our Instagram and Twitter, we are HM American Dream. So that's on Instagram and Twitter, and Facebook. It's the American Dream Project. So that's where we're going to post all of the materials. And actually, we managed towards the end of our trip to pick up sponsorship from Cole Haan. So they actually were very generous. They gave us some money to help with the production cost, but had zero creative control, which was great. So what we are going to do is, because they've been such great partners for us, we're going to help them by doing helping them with their ad campaign for spring and putting some content in their stores and on their website. So they've been such great partners that we're going to give them some footage so they can get out to their networks as well.
Gotcha. Well, I'm excited to see. You just left some breadcrumbs, if you will, on your Facebook page, along the way. And I know that there are deeper stories that are going to come out in the production.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some great stories from, we tried to hit as wider variety of people as possible. So, I think the American Dream Project will show you, it will remind you of the great things that perhaps you may have forgotten about, of why America's great. It will show you some really, really great Americans, really great everyday Americans, and also the landscape. It'll make you want to get on your bike and ride. Sure.
Well, I already want to do that. Well, and I just want to encourage everyone that sees this to go out and like you guys and catch up with you on the American Dream Project on Facebook. And I think that once more information comes out, if you can let me know, and I'll post it here as well.
Of course.
So we'll keep the message going strong. So thank you for visiting with me today, and I look forward to hearing more about your adventures.
Look forward to it. Right on.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.